Hey everyone, Kyle Walker here. If you love cars, fixing things, or just want to understand your vehicle better, you're in the right place. I share hands-on tips, smart driving advice, and straight-up car talk without the fluff. Make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and stick around till the end. You don't want to miss what's coming up. Let's get into it.
3 or 4 decades ago, the problem of environmental pollution was far on the back of the world community's attention. But times are changing, and today this aspect is receiving a lot of attention, especially when it comes to the automobile, which is considered to be one of the main sources of a whole range of harmful volatile substances entering the atmosphere. It has been experimentally established that air pollution occurs not only through the exhaust system as a result of combustion of fuel assemblies. The gasoline itself, in contact with the air, emits vapors that cause irreparable damage to the environment. The fuel adsorber, mounted in the ventilation system of the fuel tank of the absolute majority of modern cars, is designed to reduce this effect. The use of this device is regulated by European environmental standards, starting from -2 Euro i.e. for quite a long time. But, as it often happens, many car owners have a rather vague idea of what this part is, why it is needed, and how it works. We undertake to fill these gaps in automobile education. Fuel adsorber, what is it? Adsorption is understood as a physical process consisting in the absorption of a substance with a higher density by a more rarefied substance. However, no chemical reactions take place. There is no transformation of substances, only diffusion of particles without changing their properties. Such a phenomenon is widely used in a wide variety of fields of activity, including automotive industry. Although it is quite difficult to force a car manufacturer to do something that is not part of its plans, the inclusion of the requirement to equip cars with an adsorber to absorb diesel or gasoline vapors in the eco standard has done its job. Now all European concerns engaged in the manufacture of passenger cars are forced to strictly follow these standards, fearing heavy penalties. And although automakers from other parts of the world are not affected by European standards, in order not to lose the voluminous market of the old world, they are also forced to make concessions. By the way, about the term itself. In the Russian-speaking segment of the World Wide Web, the word adsorber is circulating, which is consonant with the correct one, but is erroneous, although quite common. And in order not to be considered illiterate, we recommend using the correct version. So, we have already superficially found out why the adsorber is needed. And now let's try to describe the advantages of its use in more detail. This device makes its own, albeit insignificant, contribution to fuel economy. Adsorber design is such that a part of gasoline vapors, condensing, is divided into the fuel itself and other substances. So, gasoline gets back into the tank, but not evaporated, which allowed to get rid of its smell in the car interior, which is still an urgent problem for outdated models. Adsorber contributes to normalization of pressure in the gas tank. Therefore, in cars equipped with this device, you do not have to make excessive efforts when opening the tank lid. On older cars, especially in abnormally hot weather, which causes the pressure in the closed tank to increase several times, this operation can become a real test of your physical abilities. Of course, the main factor explaining why a car needs an adsorber is to reduce the ecological load on nature. If we take into account that currently the number of cars on the planet has passed the 2 billion mark, the cumulative environmental effect will be quite significant. Finally, automakers claim that the use of adsorber has helped to reduce the explosion hazard of the car. Adsorber design. Modern adsorption devices use a wide variety of materials, from activated carbon to natural minerals, as absorbents. In an auto adsorber, activated carbon, a type of hydrocarbon with a porous internal structure, claims this role. Actually, the absorber is a plastic cylindrical container, which is located in the engine compartment near the power unit. In some models, the adsorber can be found near the fuel tank, but some of its parts are still located in the underhood space. Schematically, the fuel vapor absorber consists of the following elements: gravity sensor, separator with an emergency valve, the filter itself. As a rule, it is crushed activated carbon of the purge valve solenoid, connecting pipelines. Read also, who and where do Infinity cars are manufactured? The separator is a structure designed to collect condensed gasoline in order to send it back to the fuel tank. The job of the gravity sensor is to monitor the gasoline vapor pressure inside the tank and release it when necessary to reduce the chance of damage. The filter element is a rather large container, the lower part of which often contains an adsorbing substance, the function of which is to absorb gasoline/solar oil vapors in order to condense them and then separate them. The emergency valve should be mentioned separately. In normal situations it is inactive, but in emergency cases, when there is a risk of fuel spillage, for example, in an accident, if the car overturned, it is triggered, completely blocking the fuel line. The role of connecting tubes is quite obvious, to link together all the assemblies of the adsorber. As for the solenoid valve, its purpose is to control the operating modes of the separator, and we will tell you how it works a little later. Principle of operation of the fuel vapor adsorber. The functioning of the absorber is based on a fairly simple scheme, but there are subtleties here that will be useful to all car owners. Therefore, let's consider how the auto adsorber works with the necessary degree of detail. Since gasoline vapors, partly consisting of light, volatile hydrocarbons, are lighter than air, they accumulate at the top of the fuel tank, falling into the separator. This, in turn, is linked to a gravity sensor. Directly in the separator, a certain part of fuel vapors condenses, flowing through a pipe back to the gas tank, but already in the form of liquid fuel. Another part of the gasoline vapors manages to slip further away. This is where the adsorber awaits them, where the vapors get stuck in the carbon granules and condense here into a special cavity. A solenoid valve is responsible for emptying this cavity of the accumulated fuel, directing it either into the throttle system or directly into the intake manifold. Thus, the gasoline caught by the adsorber becomes a full participant of the process of formation of the fuel-air mixture rather than evaporating outside, polluting the surrounding space. And though it can be understood that adsorber works rather primitively, its efficiency is not doubtful. True, much depends both on the specific realization of the design and on the absorber used. Simply activated carbon is considered the most accessible material, so it is widespread. What the fuel adsorber affects. If the adsorber is in good working order, you will most likely not even be aware of the presence of this device. But since the adsorber in the car is responsible for pressure relief in the tank, for condensation of gasoline vapors, and reuse of fuel, it is quite natural that its presence allows you to reduce fuel consumption and increase the safety of the fuel system as a whole. But everything changes if some part of the adsorber starts to malfunction or fails completely. Most often, problems occur with the solenoid valve, but often there is a clogging of the cavity of the filter chamber or pipelines. It is clear that in this case the adsorber does not affect the engine performance in the most positive way because the natural fuel flow is disturbed. The pressure in the tank may also be out of the control of the device, and this is also not good from the point of view of safety. Read also, is it possible to make biodiesel at home? Consequences of removing the adsorber. A certain part of motorists believe that any measures aimed at improving the ecology of the car have a negative impact on the performance of the power unit. In particular, the adsorber, the necessity of which is, indeed, due to the requirements of ecological standards, has fallen under such criticism. Pessimists argue that this device is not just useless, it is harmful, because instead of saving fuel it gives overconsumption, instead of improving dynamics, reduction of the engine's efficiency, etc. As a result, they simply dismantle the device, or solenoid valve. How justified are such actions? Is there any logic in them? From the point of view of influence on engine operation, with a serviceable adsorber it is practically zero, because it practically does not affect the operation of the fuel system in terms of gasoline supply to the engine. Does this result in savings? Theoretically, yes, though insignificantly, because part of gasoline does not evaporate, but returns to the gas tank. In practice, it is quite difficult to check it, especially in quantitative terms. And if you believe the reviews of car owners, then positive materials are much rarer than negative ones, although the degree of confidence in them is much greater. In any case, you should not expect any miracle from adsorber, especially with regard to fuel economy. Frankly speaking, the ecological contribution can hardly be called tangible, especially in comparison with the functioning of the catalytic converter. As for the claims about the harm of the device, they look groundless. You can remove the adsorber, and in 99% of cases you will not feel any changes in engine behavior. However, there is an opinion that since gasoline vapors will not condense now, you will eliminate all artificial obstacles on the way of fuel to the combustion chamber, valves, sensors, separator, filter. The very procedure of disconnecting the adsorber consists in adding a fine filter, suitable for carburetor models VAZ, to the hose coming from the separator. In this case, gasoline vapors will safely fly into the atmosphere. In this case, the hose coming from the solenoid valve is simply squeezed. But since the work of adsorber is controlled by the onboard computer, such a change in the design will be perceived as a failure, with the corresponding check engine lighting up. To remove this error, it will be necessary to reflash the ECU. From the undoubted disadvantages of such a step can be called the following. You'll be contributing to the environmental degradation. Minimal, but still, there may be a smell of gasoline/solar oil in the cabin. The same odor will be felt near the car, but not obviously. There are advantages, which are also noted by many users. When the adsorber is located in the engine compartment, if it is removed, a lot of scarce space is freed because the activated carbon can itself has a solid size. Unstable operation of the power unit in the idling mode, as a rule, disappears. There is no need to replace the failed valve or other components of the device. Whether to follow homegrown experts or stick to the recommendations of automakers is up to you. But if you really belong to the category of population that is not indifferent to global problems, including environmental ones, the fuel adsorber will be a useful and even necessary element of the car design. In conclusion, understanding the fuel adsorber is essential for maintaining your vehicle's performance and efficiency. By grasping its role in reducing emissions and enhancing fuel economy, you can make informed decisions about your vehicle's maintenance. Regular checks and timely replacements can prevent costly repairs and ensure your engine runs smoothly. Remember, a well-functioning fuel adsorber not only benefits your vehicle, but also contributes to a cleaner environment. Thank you for watching, and stay tuned for more insights on automotive care.